After booking over 1,200 sales calls last year, I can tell you cold email is moving faster than ever. Email providers are getting more strict, AI is getting better at categorizing spam, and people are getting flooded with messages. Which means even if you land in the main inbox, you're going to be buried in a pile of pitches. Now, while some people think that the answer is sending more volume, I actually think in some cases the answer is sending less. And this resulted in us collecting over $100,000 for a client while only sending about 6,500 emails. So in this video, I'll go over everything from finding leads based on intent all the way to personalizing your campaigns. Now, when it comes to sending less emails, we need to do things a little bit differently, which means instead of just heading over to a generic database like Apollo, we're actually going to seek out prospects that are looking for your services. And to do this, we'll be using a tool called Trigify. Now, Trigify helps you find people that are interested in stuff related to what you're actually selling. And they do this by tracking social signals. So everything from job changes to LinkedIn post engagements to brand mentions. Now, this is called intent-based targeting, and it's by far the best way to find warm leads. Now, the reason why this works so well is that in 2025, everybody is sending mass volume. So if you're able to find a way to focus on a certain aspect that's relevant, you're going to stand out in the inbox. So here's how we're going to do it. First thing you're going to want to do is open up Trigify.io. And then from here, you're going to want to obviously log in. Once you log in, you'll find the dashboard here, which allows you to look at different things like profile engagement, social listening tools, keyword engagement, influencers, and so on. For the sake of this video, we're going to focus on the profile engagement section. And we do this because our client is actually leveraging a AI content offer. So we were able to target and follow the engagement of particular influencers based on the thought that those who engage with content creators would then be interested in, an AI-based content solution. So jumping into setup, once you're in the profile engagement section, you're going to be able to select which influencers that you want to follow. So for here, you can see we followed Mel Robbins and Alex Hormozi. Now, once you're in here, you'll get access to information about all of the people engaging with their posts. So everything from the number of likes to comments to location, company, headcount, different things that you're able to then filter down for your ICP. Now, when I say this platform is legit, I mean it, because we used it specifically to create this campaign for a client, which ended up booking 35 calls from just under 6,500 sends. Now, if you want to see if we can do the same for you, book a call via the first link in the description. But either way, we can't just take these leads and start sending to them because most of them won't be qualified, which is why step 2 is using Clay to enrich and qualify your data. Now, Clay is an enrichment tool that lets you pull in data from a bunch of different data sources. So whether it's LinkedIn, a company website, or even job listings, we're able to take care of this all inside of Clay. So to get Clay set up with Trigify, the first thing you're going to want to do is add it as an integration. So you're going to scroll into the section, go to integrations, and then go down to Clay. Once you manage your integrations, you're going to get the opportunity to build out webhooks. So these are the two that we have set up right now. Like I mentioned, using Alex Hormozi and Mel Robbins. I'm not going to click into these because obviously it'll give you access to my webhook, but it's as simple as taking the webhook that they created there and pulling it over into Clay. So once you have it all set up, this is what it's going to look like. Just for the sake of this video, I have it pre-created, but if you want to emulate this, essentially you're going to go create new table from webhook, and then you'll insert that webhook there. And then essentially you'll just push the data from Trigify to Clay, and it'll give you the option to pull in everything one by one. So once it's here, you'll get this column, and you can essentially go in and manually select which pieces of data you think are going to be relevant for the campaign that you're creating. So for us, we pulled in things like first name, last name, job title, LinkedIn URL, company website. Location was a big one for us. And then we also used Clay to use things like ChatGPT to determine whether or not the person is a decision maker. And then also the type of engagement that the person had made on, in this case, Hormozi's post, and then summarize the post content as well. So these two here we used as personalizations in the copy, which I'll show you in the next step. After that, we just did a few simple things, like enriching for email and then verifying that with Million Verifier, and then obviously exporting to our sending tool. So now we have a lot of data to work with, which means we can get super personal with our messaging. And this is really where the magic happens. See, when you're sending relevant messages based on intent, when everybody else is sending generic cold emails, you're almost bound to stand out. But before we get into the process of, showing you how we personalize these emails, I'll let you know what we do to create the infrastructure that allows us to send them. Because like I said before, it's getting harder and harder to land in the inbox. So nailing that infrastructure and deliverability is obviously going to be important. So when it comes to infrastructure, we like to keep things super simple. And given that these are, more targeted campaigns, it's a little bit easier on the infrastructure side of things. So I would go to one of the main domain providers, whether that's, Porkbun or GoDaddy We specifically use pork bun. I would set up probably around 10 to 20 domains. Each domain, you're going to want to send up anywhere from 2 to 3 sending accounts. And right now we're using a variety of resellers to create these accounts. So if I were you, I would head over to something like Premium Inboxes or Cheap Inboxes to set up some Google accounts there, because it's honestly just the best bang for your buck. And we've actually seen really, really good deliverability using those compared to some of the other providers. If you want to get really specific, you can try and do some backwards math based on, how many calls you're trying to book and the different metrics. But to be honest, I would probably just keep this simple. So once all of the accounts are set up, you're going to want to load them into your email sequencer. So anything from Email Bison to Smart Lead to Instantly. We specifically use Email Bison because it's an isolated infrastructure, which means we don't share reputation with any of the other users. And then from there, whichever tool you end up using, you're just going to want to put it through your 2-week warm-up period just to ensure that you have your deliverability solidified and you're giving yourself the best chance to land in the primary inbox once you launch. Now for the campaign structure. Since these are intent-based prospects, you're going to want to highlight their specific situation based on the data point that you have and draw inferences to your offer with that information. So in this case, we actually did a 2-step email, and this one was back when we were using Smart Lead. And the biggest thing that you want to focus on here, and the reason why I think this worked, was the relevance line, like the information that we're drawing inferences from, is in the preview text. So as you know, probably from some of my other videos, it's super important to create curiosity through the subject line and through the preview text. So by using this inference that we pulled from actual data on Trigify within the first section of the email, it obviously creates that curiosity, makes it look like you did your homework, and kind of draws them into either opening the email or reading on through the rest. And essentially what we did here was we used their engagement with Alex Hormozi in this situation, as I'm sure you're all aware of, to infer their engagement with Hormozi's post to the fact that they understand the power of content, which is then how we pitched our client's offer. So saw that you recently liked Hormozi's post about advertising for growth, so I'm guessing you understand the power of content. And then from there, it's just the offer. If we could help you position yourself as authority in your niche by building you a system that produces 300 pieces of content in less than 2 hours, would that be worth hearing more? Obviously, this is a really bold claim. It leverages AI, which is obviously unique, interesting, so on and so forth. And then we use the PS line as a way to essentially bring in proof. So they use this content strategy to help a client raise $7.5 million in seed funding, which was obviously pretty strong on this end. And because this was an industry agnostic campaign, we thought by using a case study that's more focused on a really, really strong result versus like a specific application, we're able to get more interest that way. And then jumping into email number 2, I don't think this one was as strong, but essentially the strategy behind this was almost to touch on some areas of the first email that were cut out. So generally our process for writing emails will, put everything in email 1, and then we cut things back and chisel it back until it's basically at its most essential form. And then anything that didn't fit in email 1 pulls itself into email 2. So these are things like pre-handling objections, other pieces of social proof, different things like that. And then we also try and make it look like an extension of the first conversation, almost like it was something that we forgot to say or that we forgot to mention in the first. And obviously straying away from things like, just following up or nudge, things like that people use. So in this case, we essentially leveraged some elaboration on what the offer was. So this system automatically generates everything from social posts to VSL scripts to blogs. And then we actually go into exactly how many pieces of content it creates with the system. And then we leveraged basically like foresight, I guess, trying to help them imagine the scenario once this was all implemented. So getting their imagination moving, having them picture what it could look like once the system is in place is obviously like a good thing. They can kind of envision the benefit and they know without having to ask, which makes it easier on inbox management side of things. So, and then again, we're adding the without pain point, which you've probably seen me mention in some of my other copies. So we're able to accomplish all this without burning out your team, which is obviously something that they want to avoid. Now, the key here is obviously making it as relevant as possible and drawing that inference on the piece of data that you're able to find via Trigify. Because when you send something based on recent activity or something that makes it look like you did your homework, you're far more likely to get a response. Now, that's exactly how you send relevant cold emails in 2025. But there are obviously some steps that I wasn't able to fit into a 10-minute video, like how to craft an offer people actually want to buy, or how to change your messaging based on the responses that you're actually receiving in the inbox. So if you want to see our exact strategy for 2025, check out this video right here and I'll see you there.